Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and for the first time ever, welcome to round 23 of the Formula One World Championship. Yes, the season in 2024 that started out in Bahrain will take us all the way around the world to Abu Dhabi next week for the final race, has ended up here. First ever round 23, and it's Qatar for the third World Championship, Qatar Grand Prix, where the race has been won from pole on the two previous occasions. Lewis Hamilton in 2021, Max Verstappen in 2023. 57 laps to come tonight, 3.367 miles lap distance, one DRS zone, short by 170 metres from last year's race. There's a headwind into turn one, that will help overtaking. 16 relentless corners around this circuit, and most teams have two new sets of the hard compound tyre, should they need them. There's plenty of new sets of the medium tyres, should they need them. The soft tyre was tried in the sprint race by Zhou Guanyu yesterday, and it didn't last very long, even though they're the third highest compounds that Pirelli bring to the racetrack this season. Here's the starting grid then. Esteban Ocon, an Alpine, at the back. Slowest in qualifying Alpine for the fifth time this year. He's alongside Franco Colapinto. Nico Hülkenberg reached SQ3 and scored points in the sprint. He's down at 18th now. Liam Lawson starts 17th, his first Q1 knockout for RB. Alex Albon starts 16th alongside Lance Stroll, who still hasn't reached Q3 here in Qatar. Yuki Tsunoda is 14th on the grid, his lowest qualifying since Monza. Valtteri Bottas 13th to Sauber, still in search of their first points this season, and Zhou Guanyu has his highest start of the year. Pierre Gasly's in 11th for Alpine, and the top 10 sees Kevin Magnussen in Q3 for the third time in 4 races, alongside Sergio Perez in Q3 for the first time in 4 races. Fernando Alonso, his best start since Austin is 8th. Carlos Sainz will start 7th. Ferrari have 2 cars in the top 10 here for the first time ever. Charles Leclerc starts 5th, alongside Lewis Hamilton, who starts in 6th. The second row is an all-McLaren lockout. Lando Norris 3rd, Oscar Piastri 4th. They can win the Constructors' Championship tonight. Max Verstappen had the fastest time in Q3, would have been on pole, but got a one-place grid penalty after he and George Russell came together on slow laps during qualifying. George Russell has back-to-back poles then, and he led 49 out of 50 laps in Las Vegas. And the fans waiting expectantly for this race, Jenson Button. Is it George Russell's to lose tonight, or is there competition everywhere you look?
Oh, I would love to say there's competition everywhere you look. For me, it's the top 3. And those top 3, for me, also are the best drivers we've had this year.
In that order, or would you put Max as champion ahead of George, ahead of Lando? How would you put that top 3?
I would say Max and then the other 2 on a par. Ooh. We've got 2 more races to go, so let's wait and see.
Let us wait and see. Lewis Hamilton, we've seen what he can do coming from lower down on the grid. In Vegas last week, he finished in 2nd. He's alongside his teammate for next year, Charles Leclerc. They got pretty close in the sprint race.
That was an amazing fight. Lewis said he should have closed the door into turn 1, but having wheel-to-wheel action through turn 1 and turn 2, they were so close but didn't quite touch. It was great to see the respect between them.
We can see the tyre blankets there almost coming off. You won't be surprised to know, Jensen, everyone is on the medium tyre except Nico Hülkenberg, who's going to go long. They've
got to try something different. The pace is in that car, and I think their race pace is actually quite better than their qualifying pace, so it'll be interesting to see how it holds on.
Medium tyres for everyone else. We're expecting them to last a decent amount, and then the hard tyre, which no one has really used yet.
They haven't, but from talking to a couple of the teams, they are still worried about that front left getting some, opening up when the circuit is cool, when they're running in dirty air. So they will be watching out for that left front.
New set of medium compound tyres for Max Verstappen, which should give him just a little bit of extra grippiness off the starts. How do you see that start going into turn 1?
Yeah, you need everything really, because as we've said, this circuit is not easy to overtake on. They've shortened the DRS. The headwind helps a little bit, but there's such low deg on these tyres, so turn 1 is very important. Another thing that is really interesting here, because there's low temperatures, the grip level on lap 1 is very low, and it's very difficult to feel where the limit of the tyre is. So you'll see them in turn 1, it looks like they're under control, and suddenly the rear will break loose, and we saw it quite a few times in the sprint at the start.
There's confirmation then on the starting tyres, medium for everyone except Nico Hülkenberg on the hard. Makes strategy a lot easier to read tonight as Bernie Collins, our resident strategist with us at Sky Race Control.
Well, we'll soon find out how easy it is for us to read up here, Crofty. But, you know, yes, the medium was the expected restart tyre for everyone. I think to pick up on what Jensen said there, because of the sprint format, they've not gone into turn one with the full fuel load on this car yet. So it will be a big turn one for all of these drivers out there tonight.
Now, McLaren champions for the first time since 1998, Bernie, if they go away from here with a 45-point lead in the Constructors' Championship. So 15 points over Ferrari should do it tonight, unless Red Bull have the best night ever. But there is another way McLaren can win this championship.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of calculations going on through this, but it comes down to the number of wins that each team have and the number of second positions that each team have. At the minute, both teams are tied on the number of wins, 5 each, but McLaren are ahead on the number of second places. So if one wins this week and one wins next week, then it'll come down to the second places, which is when they need the total points.
So basically, if McLaren win tonight, a 14-point outscore over Ferrari will do them for the Constructors' Championship.
If Ferrari don't win next week in Abu Dhabi.
Right, getcha. See how complicated it is? Luckily, Bernie is with us, with a calculator and a pen and paper in hand as well. Fortunately, we're going to get some action to take us away from the mathematics for a while. George Russell will have the outside line from the start going into turn one. You raced here before. Is it more important to be on that left-hand side?
Yeah, this circuit gets quite dusty, or it is very dusty from the word go, and it all collects off the racing line, which is the inside of the track. So P1, definitely the place you want to be. Not
since Lewis Hamilton in Hungary a few years ago have I seen Mercedes all alone on the grid in the way George Russell was there. But they're taking their time getting towards the grid as we look from the rear of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. Just time to remind you, if you want to ride on board with any of the drivers, you can do so in the race tonight. You need your Sky Sports app, Sky Sports login, Sky Q, Sky Glass, Sky Stream, and now customers, you can use the interactive button on your remote control as Esteban Ocon makes his way around the corner to slot into position. And well, this is the bits you never saw as a driver, Jensen. You know, the tension in the garage whilst you were on the grid.
Yeah, all these mechanics are hoping they're not going to have to run out the garage until their first normal pit stop. Hopefully there's no damage for anyone at the start. So Max Verstappen's been told 4 long burnouts, which is really unusual. So wow. They're really worried for tyre temp and getting those tyres nice and ready for the start.
So much cooler than it was last year when we were in Qatar. The track temperature only 23 degrees. And it's one of the reasons why the lap times have been so fast so far this weekend. Here we go then. 57 laps of the Qatar Grand Prix to come. The Constructors' Championship on the line. It's lights out, away we go. And George Russell gets away really well, but so does Max Verstappen. And he is coming at him. Max Verstappen in second place is swooping into the lead of the first turn. Lando Norris on the inside, and Lando Norris might escape out of turn one into the lead. Max Verstappen just holds on to that front place from Lando Norris, from George Russell, who's lost 2 places. And then comes Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Oscar Piastri behind him, then Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez trying down the inside on Fernando Alonso, but a blistering start from the McLaren and from the Red Bull.
Yeah, fantastic start. Yeah, I actually thought Lando had a chance around the outside there.
Right, there was 3 cars going wide. Kevin Magnussen got squirrely on the curb, and Franco Colapinto has gone off at turn 1, and he hasn't got going again, and he's got Esteban Ocon down there with him. So I think we might be about to have a safety car here. Race control have got about another 2 miles to... now we've got the safety car. Nico Hülkenberg is right down there as well. He is still going, Hülkenberg. He's getting his way around turn 6, and that is the coming together between Colapinto and Esteban Ocon. Crash number 16 for Williams this season. Colapinto, after 3 crashes in 2 weekends, Mexico and Vegas, or Brazil and Vegas, I should say, is now out here in Qatar. And let's have a look at the damage on Nico Hülkenberg's car. His left rear has come off the rim.
Yeah, hopefully for him that's just a rear puncher. I can't see any damage on the car, but it would be quite unusual just to be a rear puncher from contact.
So Hülkenberg was down in 18th anyway. He hasn't lost places, and I think Ocon went into the side of Franco Colapinto from what I'm hearing at the start. But the safety car will lead them around, and that 100% safety car record here continues. Bernd Maylander taking the drivers around, and look how they're having to weave down the straight, Jensen, to keep any temperature in those tyres.
Yeah, it's unusual to see that these days in Formula One. They generate heat so quickly. Obviously the weight of the cars, but the amount of downforce they have. Just going back to that start, that was an amazing start from Max. Reaction. It looked like they got a almost identical. Well, we're going to see it right now.
Well, it was a better getaway from George Russell. Second phase, here comes Max.
Yeah, really good, and you can just see the straight line speed. He's got a little bit more, and obviously always being on the inside, he's ran him a little bit wide. Beautiful line for Lando there. I thought Lando was going to hold it around the outside here, but he backs off. You know, we saw the fight with Lewis Hamilton and Charles. Charles went around the outside of him at turn 2. I thought he could have gone for that then.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso gets a really good getaway. Sergio Perez gets a really good getaway from the midfield, but into turn 1, Verstappen's on the inside, and on the extreme inside is Norris, and that is Nico Hülkenberg into Ocon, into Colapinto, who was very much the innocent party in all that, as probably was Esteban Ocon as well.
He was. We're right on board with Esteban Ocon. Reasonable start, no cars coming past him yet, so he's in the middle of the circuit, heading into turn 1, brakes relatively early. Oh, but yeah, Nico lost the rear of the car and it just hit the front tyre there. But yeah, disastrous for Williams. Obviously no fault of Franco's, but a lot of damage.
Well, we can ride on board now with Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. And in his attempt on the hard tyres, which would have been a bit colder than those on the mediums, it all went awry. You've got to feel a little bit sorry here for Franco Colapinto. We're on board with Alex Albon, and Alex Albon gets hit and spun
massively hit by Stroll.
Yeah, copy that.
I knew he was going to do it, I could tell.
Well, both Lance Stroll and Nico Hülkenberg have pitted. Let's have a look at what happened with Stroll and Albon. Well, the question to ask there, and well done Lance Stroll for keeping it going, did Alex Albon cut in on Stroll, or did Stroll move into Alex Albon?
Yeah, I think Stroll had understeer there. It's so difficult with the tyres not being up to temperature yet. You know, Alex had every right to be on the outside there, but obviously Stroll tried his best to stay inside.
Faster, what the?
There's clear space, though, for Alex Albon.
Alex could have gone a bit wider, yes. He could have run onto the curb a bit more, but it's always so difficult to know where the car is on the inside of you.
So, safety car still taking everyone around. I wonder if we might get a restart at the end of this lap, because the debris might well have been cleared away. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren ahead of Ferrari by 38 points. That is not enough to win the Constructors' Championship tonight as it stands. Ted, down to you.
A couple of things from down here. So Lance Stroll did have to pit to change those tyres after that clonk with Albon. Hülkenberg's car's borne out quite well, actually, despite him seemingly being at fault for that turn 1 incident. He's carried on another set of hard tyres. And there's some thoughts on Hamilton's start, some questions on Hamilton's start, whether it was a little before the lights went out.
Nothing official has come up yet to note Lewis Hamilton for a potential false start.
It looked like he went a tiny bit early and then he reacted. He backed off.
And that's okay, is it?
Well,
if you don't go too far.
No, but you obviously, if you've jumped the start, you've jumped the start. But it looks like he reacted to that, like, oh, I've gone a tiny bit early. And then he lost a lot of ground to Checo and Fernando.
Yeah. I think if you go, but don't go beyond that line, then you're okay. It's just whether you've gone beyond that line or not. Either way, that has cost Lewis Hamilton. He's down to 9th. Fernando Alonso started 8th. Sergio Perez started 9th, and he's now 7th. Carlos Sainz started 7th. He's now 6th. Oscar Piastri has dropped down from 4th to 5th. Charles Leclerc moving up into 4th place. George Russell was pole and is now 3rd. Lando Norris was 3rd and is now 2nd. And Max Verstappen is exactly where he thought he would be after he had the fastest Q3 time last night, and that's out in the lead of this race.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a tough one for George, losing 2 positions off the start, and 2 really quick cars, I think, here in the race. But it did look really tricky on that first lap, didn't it? You know, Oscar Piastri really struggling to get the tyres working, and they've got to go through that all again. Obviously, they're single file, but still, it's going to be tricky breaking for turn 1.
So at least one more lap then behind the safety car. Now, Nico Hülkenberg has been noted by race control Rui Marquez, the race director in his second Grand Prix, for causing a collision. Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto also have been noted, but it wasn't their fault. Was it Hulkenberg's fault? Or is that just a turn one incident that happens?
It kind of looked like he wasn't getting the retardation that he expected under braking, because he locked the inside front. And then it was really late into the corner that he actually locked the rears or lost the rear. So quite an unusual moment. Maybe he just didn't have enough brake temp.
Let's have a look at Max Verstappen's race start. Safety car coming in at the end of this lap. Second phase really gets alongside and ahead of that Mercedes. New tyres, of course. He can probably brake a bit later.
Yep, good move. And Lando's in front here under braking, but maybe he was thinking, well, Max might just push me off at the exit.
Hanging around on the outside of a corner where Max Verstappen hasn't worked in the past for him, shall we say?
No, you're right. You got to go by your experience, I guess. But it was a shame because we saw it with Charles and Lewis in the sprint, and that would have been a nice little fight.
It certainly would. We might still get some fights. We're only on lap 4. We've only had about half a lap of actual racing so far. So this is the bit where it all slows down and Bernd Maylander scuttles back off towards the pit lane. Max Verstappen will control the pace here. There's only one big straight. So where do you want to get going if you're leading a safety car restart here?
Well, you want them to be affected by your downforce, really, in the last corner. But I mean, he's going really slow. He's weaving, so I'm thinking halfway through a weave, he's going to put his foot down. It's the way you try and do it. You try and trick the guy behind into thinking, oh, I'm going slow, I'm weaving to warm my tyres up.
Now, obviously, you can't overtake before the line. The line comes at you pretty quickly down the straight. Verstappen's gone here. Lando Norris has stuck to him quite well. Carlos Sainz has stuck to Oscar Piastri quite well. And there's the gap between Verstappen and Norris down the straight. That's long enough for Verstappen to be able to defend that lead, but Norris might be under pressure from George Russell and Piastri, and Charles Leclerc are battling into turn 1, and Piastri has got ahead of the Ferrari. Fernando Alonso looking for room on the inside of Lewis Hamilton, and round the outside, there goes Yuki Tsunoda in the RB, whilst his teammate Liam Lawson and Valtteri Bottas go wide into the first corner. Second start of this race, and already we've got cars out and potentially out of the race if they can't keep their engines running. Gravel on the track there as people have gone wide, and it's Max Verstappen who leads from Lando Norris and George Russell. Now Oscar Piastri up into 4th and Charles Leclerc 5th.
Yeah, it's a big move for Oscar to get in front of the Ferraris, exactly what they need for this Constructors' Championship. A little bit of movement back down the field as well, with Lewis gaining a position on Fernando. Fernando really losing out 2 positions into turn 1.
Yeah, down into 10th place now, Fernando Alonso. No further investigation. Nico Hulkenberg for causing a collision. He's down in 16th. Stroll behind him. Lawson behind him after going out at turn 1 on the restart. Ferrari trying to close the gap on McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. Have it all to do here. 5th and 6th currently. Oscar Piastri is on the tail of George Russell, but that Mercedes looks like it has a decent speed over the McLaren down the straight. We will find out, as now Oscar Piastri getting a slipstream behind George Russell. No DRS until they come round here again. Looks really dusty out on the track tonight, doesn't it? As DRS is now enabled and George Russell holds on to 3rd place.
Yeah, well, here we go, the restart, the move for Oscar Piastri down the outside.
Very nice.
Lovely move there. Getting it across onto the inside, blocking the inside. That move was done early.
This is Liam Lawson trying to get past Valtteri Bottas. He's got half a car alongside the Sauber. He's got 3/4 of a car alongside the Sauber. Into turn 1 he goes. He just couldn't hold it, could he?
He just went a bit too deep, didn't he? Got a lot of understeer on the way in. And that snap oversteer that I was talking about on these cold rear tyres just comes out of nowhere.
And that is Fernando Alonso's struggles against Lewis Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda.
The speed on the straight is worrying.
And he's now been passed by Pierre Gasly as well. So even more worrying for Fernando Alonso, who's dropped down to 12th.
And Kevin Magnussen has got past him as well. So 2 more cars past Fernando. I'm wondering if he does have a deployment issue there.
Could be right. As we see the replay, of Fernando Alonso's struggles. The stewards have noted, or sorry, race controls noted Valtteri Bottas and Liam Lawson for that collision, and also the earlier collision between Lance Stroll and Alex Albon. That has been investigated by the stewards. Oscar Piastri's got DRS behind George Russell. Not enough to get him level. He's about 3 car lengths behind, as you can see, going into turn 1. The field getting quite strung out here, with Fernando Alonso trying to close in on Pierre Gasly with the aid of DRS, which is worth something like 20 kilometers an hour of extra pace by the end of the straight. Yeah,
fastest lap there by Max Verstappen. They're going to need all of that DRS here. It's you can pull a good gap on someone at that last corner. But the interesting one for me was Oscar. Very aggressive at the restart. The initial start, he really struggled to get tyre temperature, but he seems to have worked that out, because it was a great restart by him after the safety car, and he's right on the back now of George Russell. So Max Verstappen, 1.5 seconds out in front over Lando Norris, the top 2 in the Drivers' Championship, and Max has got himself out of the DRS threat. Crucially for Lando Norris, he is out of DRS threat from George Russell. Ted, we can go down to you.
Just a quick one. Lance Stroll has dropped to last, and the mechanics at Aston have come out into the pit box. I think they're going to retire him. I believe he feels that there's more damage after that clash with Albon. He's going to be, what, 3rd retirement of the race?
Yes, because Ocon and Colapinto literally hit the dust at turn 1, and Lance Stroll is going to be the next retiree as the cars file past the finish line once more, and Max Verstappen sets another fastest lap, and Lance Stroll might be about to retire from this race. He's also been hit with a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with Alex Albon. Yep, there's the penalty there we get on the screen, but for Lance Stroll, it's been action-packed, hasn't it? A lot of incidents so far. Certainly has. Bernie Collins, Lance Stroll being told box to retire the car.
Well, I was trying to listen through the radio, Crofty, as much as I could, and I think he's actually, the pit wall were trying to encourage him to stay out, because he's still under investigation for that penalty, so they want to be able to serve that, and they want to try and learn as much as they can about the car. It's a bit of an unusual one there that he's coming in. Well, they've changed the tyres, they've sent him back out again. And he, I would imagine, did serve that 10-second time penalty whilst he was in the pits. He rejoins this race. Liam Lawson is the next car ahead of him, just going through turn 7. But a safety car brings him right back into it again. It does, and for a driver, oh, that's tough. Because it's turned into a test session, really. Yeah. And when you don't have that adrenaline, that excitement of racing other cars, it's really difficult, but it's necessary as well. It's hard. Now, George Russell is closing in on Lando Norris. He's taken about 4/10 out of Lando's advantage, but he still hasn't got DRS as they make their way down the straight. Oscar Piastri.
I cannot believe it, man. 2 years with the same problem on the straights.
Aston Martin draggy again and losing top speed down the straights as Fernando Alonso has been noted for rejoining the track in an unsafe manner. Do you know, there's no risk of rain tonight, but it's literally pouring at Aston Martin in terms of whatever could go wrong seems to be going wrong. Yeah. Oh, Lando Norris running a little bit wide through there. We saw all the gravel on the circuit. He's just added to that. That's turn 4 and turn 5. I'll tell you what, gents, and this is Fernando Alonso when he rejoined, and he rejoined right into the path of the Haas and had to bail out of that. Kevin Magnussen was the car on the right-hand side. Yeah, I think he might be in trouble for that, because that was pretty close at 160 miles an hour. And this we mentioned earlier on. Ted, I think you mentioned it. Lewis Hamilton noted for a full start. It's taken a while for that to come through, but that often is a 5-second penalty that follows that sort of notification. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to swallow. At the moment, he's stuck behind Checo Perez, so not able to make any threat on the Ferraris, and yeah, that's going to hurt him at the first stop. Let's have a look at the false start, or the potential false start. Close. That is tight.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
But I think Lewis held his hands up and admitted that he had he'd been a bit too eager, and potentially there went before the lights went out. That's the key. You don't see that effort from Lewis, so it just shows you how a tough weekend.
spiral.
What's happened here is Lance Stroll is now retiring that car. They've served the 10-second penalty in order for it not to be served the next time I think he goes racing with a grid penalty or something like that. So come in, do a live stop, serve your penalty, get it over and done with, and then box the car for whatever was wrong. We'll send Ted down to Aston Martin to find out the reason behind it. Stewards are now looking at Bottas and Lawson. There's so much going on in the stewards room and race control. We're barely talking about what's happening on the track, and what is happening is Max Verstappen has opened up now a 2-second gap over Lando Norris. George Russell is 1.5 seconds further back, and this is Kevin Magnussen passing Yuki Tsunoda, goes all the way around the outside, goes off onto the gravel, and then rejoins ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Yes.
I love watching these two race. That was aggressive, but what a move. What a move from Kevin. I did not think that was going to come off, but it did.
Well, that is that battle between Haas and Alpine and RB, and Haas once again scoring a couple of points here tonight, with RB scoring 1 and Alpine so far with no points on the board at all. And that battle will just carry on and on throughout this race, as now Pierre Gasly has got the bit between his teeth and the speed too, and it was just for half a second looking to make a move down the inside on Yuki Tsunoda, who saw that coming.
He did, and he moved a little bit late, I thought, there. Not that it really mattered, because I don't think Gasly was ready, close enough to pounce, but a little bit of movement you saw there. Hopefully that won't happen again. But
well,
no.
A bit like Oscar Piastri last night in his battle with George Russell. The stewards let that go, didn't they?
Yeah.
Tsunoda moving on the braking. Too late. Copy.
So Pierre Gasly wants to have that looked at. Yuki Tsunoda might have an investigation against him. His teammate Liam Lawson, who's running last at the moment, has got a penalty for causing a collision that we saw earlier on. He'd been noted for that collision with Valtteri Bottas, who's still going, and behind his teammate Joe Guan Yu, the Sauber's running 13th and 14th. Stroll, Ocon and Colapinto are out. 17 cars on the track. Max Verstappen leads them around. We're on lap 11. Ted, what have you got for us?
So I'm following the lap times at the front with tyre degradation. You know how I like tyre chat, Crofty. And they're all managing to a certain degree. George Russell is...
I jumped off the brake because otherwise I was going to smash him. Okay, mate.
The last thing Alpine need is another pink car out in this race, isn't it? So Pierre Gasly's their only hope. But yeah, just George Russell managing his tyres a little bit. That's allowed Piastri to close right up behind the Mercedes. It looks like Piastri's got better pace. Can't find a way round at the moment. But whether Max Verstappen, Crofty, is at the front managing his tyres or not, blistering pace and moving away from Lando Norris.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. Lap 12 there, 2 seconds. The gap out in front, and the pit window opens round about now. No one seems to be complaining about their tyres too much, but they shouldn't be, because we've had that many laps behind the safety car.
Yeah, exactly, and they don't really know what the hard tyres are going to do yet either, so they want to push these as long as they can. This is a great battle we have here in the Constructors' Championship, and these points mean so much to these teams, and they're fighting for P9. Kevin Magnussen with Tsunoda-san and Gasly behind. 3 teams that really want that position in the championship. Yeah, 5 points Haas have over Alpine currently, and 7 points over RB, and we keep saying it's a $30 million difference in terms of the prize money paid out between 8th in the championship and 6th in the championship. In terms of points for this race, Max Verstappen with the fastest lap is taking max points currently. It's not all his own way, though, because Lando just took a 10th out of him on the last lap, so he's not pulling too much on him. He's keeping him in check. Well, we started to see, didn't we, a few races ago, how the Red Bull might pull away from the McLaren. The McLaren would come back at the Red Bull towards the end of a stint, round about this length into a stint, so we'll keep an eye on that.
From what we can see, Verstappen's tyres similar to ours. Russell behind, slightly worse than ours.
And this time around, Pierre Gasly does get past Yuki Tsunoda, and whilst the incident on the previous lap, between Tsunoda and Magnussen has been noted, and whilst Gasly wanted an incident looked at between himself and Tsunoda, this time around, the Frenchman has got his man, and I would imagine the stewards will say, fair enough, it's done. Yeah, it's done now. Let's forget that one. Let's move on. But now his next challenge is Kevin Magnussen. Joe Guan Yu, as we ride on the straights with him. And into turn 1, you can see his teammate Valtteri Bottas and Liam Lawson coming together, and that is how Liam Lawson picked up that 10th place penalty. And this is Yes, the off-board view. Not been his best night in Formula One so far for Liam Lawson.
No, he hasn't, and it's so tricky down there with, you feel like you've got grip and it just goes away from you so quickly, but yeah, he was a little bit too brave on the brakes, I think.
That's Sergio Perez. He has Lewis Hamilton right behind him. Hamilton is under investigation for a false start as Lando Norris now sets a new fastest lap of the race, and that gap around about 1.8 seconds. Behind Perez, Hamilton's got DRS, so he's got that extra boost down the straight, and probably needs a couple more car lengths at the start of the straight to make a difference by the end of it. We can look back to Yuki Tsunoda, who's got Fernando Alonso behind him. And Alonso trying to go the long way round the outside. He'll fight this one, stays on the track, Fernando Alonso, and comes back out of that battle ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Beautiful.
We've had track limits at turn 1 on lap 10, which was 3 laps ago, probably when you passed Tsunoda.
He pushed me out there.
Yeah, there's just track limits at the moment, but it is under investigation.
Yeah, he might get done there for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Lewis Hamilton has a 5-second penalty for a false start. We rather thought that was coming when we saw the replay of it. So his job now, try and get past Sergio Perez as soon as he can and open up a bigger gap so that it doesn't cost him a place come the pit stops. No further investigation. Fernando Alonso for that bit where he went off the track and rejoined. It wasn't unsafe in the view of the stewards.
It's surprising to see how difficult the top 8 are finding it to overtake with DRS. You know, the rest of the field, I mean, it's just the racing is amazing. It's really fun to watch, but maybe they're also sort of biding their time, looking after the tyres, and then they'll pounce a little bit later close to the pit stops.
Well, that DRS zone, Jensen's been shortened by 170 metres, 170. That's quite a big chunk of DRS to take out.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Too much?
It's a lot. Well, you'd say at the moment, yes, but then from 10 backwards, no, it seems perfect.
Zhou Guanyu fancies doing some overtaking. Zhou Guanyu in his Sauber moves ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and up into 12th place. The Sauber driver is saying it really is frustrating that the car is coming good in the latter stages of the race. Where has this potential been all year? In the early stages of the season, the car wasn't bad. Their pit stops were absolutely horrendous. Then they solved the pit stops and the car was absolutely horrendous. And now they're finally doing some racing. Zhou's best finish of the year, Sauber's best finish of the year, 11th place in Bahrain. And he's now behind Fernando Alonso in 12th after a decent move there.
Yeah, well, neither driver has a contract to race in Formula One next year, so a couple of good races could be really good for them for finding drives elsewhere or maybe in the future in F1.
Yeah, speculation that Zhou Guanyu might go to Ferrari as their reserve driver for next season. Robert Schwartzman, I think, has said he's not going to be with the team, and Zhou wanting to stay around F1 rather than concentrate on another series, because you never know what opportunities might open up for 26.
Exactly. Schwartzman's going to be IndyCar, so he's going to be a little bit busy, I think.
Man, I'm pushing 100%, bro.
I know, man. Hang in there. Hang in there.
Oh, interesting to hear that Tsunoda is actually looking after his tyres. You could see a little bit of graining actually on the inside of that front left as he went through the last corner, and maybe he thinks other people are pushing too much, or the team do.
We shall see. Sky Race Control next, Bernie Collins.
Yes, Croft, and you might be thinking, what can Norris do? What's going to happen with Norris and Verstappen? Well, I think he's a little bit too far back to do the box to overtake manoeuvre, but it is getting close to that pit window. However, Piastri is close enough to Russell if they're prepared to take a risk on the drop back, and it's only a few laps away from that optimum one-stop window.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Bernie, which has shifted a bit, of course, because of those laps behind the safety car. We're on board now with Oscar Piastri chasing George Russell. McLaren running 2nd and 4th, Ferrari 5th and 6th. This is not enough for the Constructors' Championship to be decided tonight.
No, it's not. We're just through turn 14. So quick, isn't it? I think the thing you can see with the McLaren, it's actually able to close through those corners, which is a surprise. And Oscar did say, big snap there. Yeah, he said that the mid-speed, low-speed corners are the corners that are more affected when you're running close to a car in front, which is unusual. And they are running more downforce on that car than the Mercedes. So he will catch, but then struggle a little bit more on the straights to overtake.
Still has the DRS, because before that off, he was going through the detection point and he was within 1 second. But as a driver, how frustrating is it when you know your car is better through the corners but slower on the straights?
Well, yeah, it's frustrating, but then you as a team have chosen that direction. You know, there are many benefits of having more downforce on the car because you can look after the tyres more, and you can get close enough to get that DRS.
This is that moment again. Oh. He did well to hold on to that and not disappear off into the gravel and towards the barriers. But even before that, maybe Piastri putting Russell under pressure, or maybe the pace of the Mercedes not helping George Russell try and close in on Norris and Verstappen, who are starting to pull a bit of a gap, the front two here, over those running thirds and fourths.
Let's check pressures, tire pressures. The way I drive, picture is likely.
Pressures are fine, Charles, for now. Pressures are fine.
Now, this time last year, a lot of problems with the tyres, but the curbs, the pyramid edges have been rounded off and lowered down to make it a bit easier on the tyres. So what's Charles referring to there?
Well, he's obviously being very aggressive on curbs. Normally the issues are when you go over the curb of the tyre and come back onto the track, so it's the inside edge of the tyre that can get damaged there. Yeah, so I guess he's being very aggressive out there.
Yeah, and that aggression at the moment not helping him to, well, within 2 seconds of Oscar Piastri, the car in front, as we ride on board down the straight here with Pierre Gasly. Kevin Magnussen, the car in front of him. Gasly currently into the points. Concertina effect through turn one as the gap closes down. Doesn't look like 3.2 seconds, does it? Looks more like about half a second there.
Yeah, 0.32 of a second.
Yeah, maybe.
But this is a really important challenge on the Haas of Kevin. I'm also surprised. I didn't think they had this pace, Alpine, in the race, but he's looking very strong.
You haven't been chatting to Oliver Oakes recently. He's been telling us all about the pace of that car, and it certainly has improved. Certainly with Pierre Gasly. In the last few races, his teammate Esteban Ocon out and started last in this race, and he has one more race to go at Alpine until he's replaced by Jack Doohan for next season at the Enstone team, and Esteban Ocon goes off to replace Kevin Magnussen at Haas alongside Ollie Behrman, who has had a winning weekend in F2 here in Qatar this weekend. Max Verstappen responds to Lando Norris's recent charge and sets a new fastest lap of the race. He's now 1.8 seconds, give or take a few thousandths, ahead of Norris in second place.
How slow we compared to the others?
So front runners are mid-25s.
Mid-25s. It's a second.
Well, it's a second and a half compared to Max Verstappen, sadly for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, he is stuck obviously behind Checo, and you don't really know your outright pace until you do have that clear air. You might think that the actual pace is okay, but yeah, when you lose that much downforce behind the car in front, it's tricky to tell.
Ted, let's head down to you.
And when, Jensen, you lose all that downforce behind the car in front, isn't it better to get some clear air? And that's the question that the strategists are asking themselves on the pit wall. I can see lots of discussions on the McLaren pit wall. Had there not been any safety cars, now, Crofty, lap 19 was the opening of the pit window, the earliest you could pit, maybe put a hard tyre on and get to the end. Of course, with the safety cars, that's pushed it back a bit. But I'm wondering who's fancying a cheeky undercut tonight. Maybe Oscar Piastri? He's had good pace, but Russell's ahead of him. Always kept between a second and a half behind the Mercedes. But yeah, just wondering if McLaren might be thinking of trying an undercut to get Piastri in some clear air to try the undercut on Russell. What are Piastri's gaps like if he were to pit now with the long pit loss?
Well, he's a second and a half behind George Russell. Lando is a second and 8/10 behind Max Verstappen. Jensen, the problem is, and I think Lando is just about okay to get into a gap.
Tyre update so far, tyres as per model.
Yeah, like I'm pushing flat out, so I feel like I'm feeling them, but they seem okay-ish.
He didn't seem as excited about that message as Will Joseph, his race engineer, did. The trouble is, if you're medium tyre at the moment, you're going to go onto the hard tyre. Undercut sounds possible, but how quickly does the hard tyre warm up as Valtteri Bottas goes around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda and into 13th?
Yeah, obviously the tyres will come out the blankets nice and hot, but yeah, it's tricky to get the tyres working out the pits here. They'll be brand new, they'll be nice and shiny, so you've got to get that off the surface of the tyre, and it's tricky around here. The way the surface is and how low the temperature are. By the end of the pit lane on your new tyres, the temperatures would have dropped quite a bit.
And the trouble is, here, trying to warm up those hard compound tyres and bang in the lap time you need to make the undercut work, it is not the easiest thing in the world, because it's not like you're doing a lot of straights, you're doing corners where you need the grip, and you don't get the grip straight away.
I guess the only positive is there's no massively heavy braking zones, which is normally where the issue is of front locking and damaging that tyre. Interestingly, Max has been asking for more front wing, so going up on front wing, a steeper angle, which he's basically struggling with understeer in the car. And he's in the lead, so he doesn't have dirty air giving him understeer, so he would struggle if he was behind the McLaren.
And he's also just been told to stop managing the tyres. You can stop managing it quite so much, which is probably not, well, probably the second least exciting message Lando Norris is going to get in the last 2 minutes as well. The undercut zone, a low threat from Lando Norris at the moment. Max is not managing those tyres as much, and the threat from the undercut disappears as each revolution of the wheels goes by. Bernie Collins, to you.
Yeah, I was just going to come in on that, Crofty. So I think you need to be close to within DRS to make the undercut work because of that warm-up that Jensen described in the hard tyre. At the moment, if Norris boxed, he would come out behind Hamilton in front of Magnussen, so nice little gap there. Piastri, however, because he's further back on track, would actually come out behind Alonso. So he'd have to go through that Magnussen-Gasly argument, so that's maybe not worth the risk from McLaren's side at this stage.
So saying that, Jensen, if the undercut, where you stop before your rival, isn't necessarily the best thing, is the overcut the best thing? Stay on those tyres for a little bit longer, maybe hang on for a safety car.
As long as we don't see a drop-off on the tyres, but it's just gradually losing grip, I think that is definitely the best move.
It's Valtteri Bottas all by himself and going wide.
We see a lot of that, don't we, where they understeer off the track.
And nothing causing that other than lack of grip.
Yeah, he's just got on the throttle and it's just understeered and pushed him wide.
Looking at the lap times, I'm not seeing a drop-off at the moment. I'm told by the engineers, Andrea Stella actually told me this one, that it was negative dead yesterday for the sprint race, which basically means that even though the tyres were losing performance, the lap times were getting quicker because the fuel was burning off and the track was getting grippier. Are we going to get the same sort of thing in this race, I wonder?
Yeah, and fuel load is, makes a big difference around here, carrying fuel around these high-speed mid-speed corners. Interestingly, if you look at the Ferraris, they look like they were dropping away from the McLarens, but Charles has slowly been catching Piastri, and he's only 2.2 behind Piastri at the moment.
Yeah, he's a couple of tenths up on this particular lap. Piastri getting closer to George Russell again, and that, as we can see on board now, the longer he stays behind George Russell, the slower he's going to go in terms of the pace of the car, and the easier that is then maybe for Charles Leclerc to catch.
He's getting frustrated, you can see, because he just got onto the throttle a little bit too early through the apex there, pushed him wide, big snap of oversteer on the exit curve. If he didn't have that, he might have been able to challenge George there.
So George Russell lapping in the 125s at the moment. Oscar Piastri on the last lap with a 125.2, a 125.5 for Russell, with DRS helping Piastri, of course, as well. What this is doing is stopping Piastri from pitting because he can't get the gap to Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, so it's a, as I said, a frustrating position that he's found himself in. He really, really has to get past George. So he is giving it his all, even if it damages the tyres, I think.
And I think George Russell on the radio just hinting that he's struggling a little bit. Whoa, second time at that corner, Piastri has got a bit of a wobble on.
Yeah, he actually went off the track, didn't he? So I think if he had made the move, I'm not sure what that would have been.
His right front tyre might have just hung on to a bit of the white line. I'd like to see a photo of that one, to be honest. I've seen closer. I've seen a more slam dunk track limits, and he hasn't been flashed up for a track limits violation there.
He looks like he's in the same position as he was last lap now. So if he can get that exit, it could happen in turn one, or at least a challenge this lap.
George Russell's coming in. He might not need to pit, because you can see the Mercedes crew then rushing out into the pit lanes. Verstappen sets a new fastest lap of the race. Russell second. Piastri now third. Leclerc moves into fourth. George Russell stops. On go the hard compound tyres. Sainz, Perez and Hamilton
slow.
Oh, very slow. Go past the finish line, and George Russell trying to get out before Kevin Magnussen. It would have been nice and comfortable had he not have been stationary for 7 seconds. That has cost George Russell 1 place as Magnussen goes past him, 2 places as Gasly goes past him, maybe another place as Alonso goes past him. And that gap to Fernando Alonso and Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly, the Mercedes thought they had.
How far are we off the front, man?
So 1.2 to the front.
Is the car broken or just...
We're just underbalanced by the look of it, Lewis, just underbalanced.
That's Lewis Hamilton's woes with a car that just doesn't have the balance that he needs. George Russell's woes are that stop, that lengthy stop, has cost him 3 places on the track and has given Ferrari a chance to jump him in the pit stops.
Yeah, that hurts when you've been working so hard for your position on the track and then they struggled to get the tyre off.
Yeah, it was the right rear just wasn't coming off. They needed like 3 stabs. It was like a driver with understeer going through a high-speed corner. 1 stab, 2 stab, 3, it'll come. And then they finally had the purchase.
Yeah, Oscar got released. He obviously had DRS and did a purple.
How far are we off the front, man?
It was only a 10th off of Norris
So
that lap.
1.2 to the front.
He's definitely got the pace in the
car
car
broken?
himself. Now he's been released.
No, we're just underbalanced
At the end
by
of
the
this
look of it,
race,
Lewis, just
Oscar Piastri will
underbalanced.
be just sending a little an email to the race director saying, yeah, that DRS zone, could it be lengthened a bit for next year? That's maybe by another 50 metres, because that's cost me. I could have got past George. And now we're seeing the pace of that car. In the Constructors' Championship, 42 points, the advantage for McLaren over Ferrari, currently not enough to win them the World Championship tonight.
Not right now, no. Wow, that's so close though, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not leading, they need 45.
Yeah. But obviously tough for Russell, and now he can't put those tyres to good use. You know, first of all you have the tyre warm-up issue, but now he's stuck behind 3 slower cars, which will cost him quite a bit of time. So
Yeah.
big frustration.
A good stop for Valtteri Bottas as he makes his potentially one and only pit stop. Piastri's pace is good enough that it could drag the 2 Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc and Sainz with him. So rather than pitting straight away, might just benefit Ferrari to stay out there for a couple more laps.
Well, they all want to clear the Magnussen, Gasly, Alonso fight, don't they? And I don't think they're in that position at the moment. So, a great lap there by Leclerc. It's quickest of the race, so 24.8, and quicker than Piastri in front.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz put in a 25.3. He's the one that, but if you were Ferrari, you'd probably bring Carlos Sainz in first because he'd be under threat from George Russell. And Russell just making his way around the final turn at the moment. We'll see what his first lap time is on those hard compound tyres. And this is where all the strategists will be watching those times. 125.5 for George Russell. So Leclerc comfortably ahead, Sainz ahead by 2/10.
Yeah, and
Sainz right on our window
George
at the moment.
is on the back now of Fernando Alonso, 0.9 of a second, so already getting the dirty air from the car in front.
Bernie Collins, Sky Race Control. We're watching the fight between
Yeah,
Leclerc,
picking
Sainz
up a little
and
bit of
Russell.
understeer.
Would you,
At high
as a
speed.
strategist, bring Sainz in at the end of this lap because Russell will only get faster when those hard tyres get up to temperature?
Yeah, so Russell should get faster as those tyres get up to temperature, like you say, Crofty. But the thing is, Alonso is currently lapping 1 second a lap slower than the Ferrari. So if Alonso can hold Russell up at all, any extra margin allows that pit window to be a little bit safe in case they have a slow stop. But let's see what they do.
That's true, and in the first sector, 2/10 Carlos Sainz ahead of George Russell. As out in front, Lando Norris puts a couple of tenths out of Max Verstappen's advantage.
And they're going quicker on these old tyres, so they're getting quicker every lap. So yeah, I don't think they will be rushing to the pits to put the hard tyre on quite yet.
Thing is here, it's such a slow stop, isn't it? The 25 seconds you lose by making your pit stop. The longer you can avoid it, the better, because you're waiting for that safety car. If
The car's slowly beginning to turn, but not much.
Copy, Lewis. Yeah, we start seeing it now.
Currently in 7th and 10th of a second quicker than Sergio Perez on the previous lap. George Russell on the DRS, still can't get past Fernando Alonso, which gives Ferrari that bit more time to breathe a bit more easily.
Yeah, and he was 9 tenths off of Leclerc there, so yeah, he's losing a lot of time here. But it's tough, it's frustrating, but you just got to get your head down. It's not over yet. We've got another 30 laps.
It's a difficult one to try and explain, because obviously George Russell is not on the same part of the track as the two Ferraris, but he is racing against Leclerc and Sainz, which he probably didn't expect to do, given that he was starting on pole tonight. And he's having now balance issues on the hard tyre.
He's saying the car's not turning, and Lewis was saying the car is starting to turn. So I don't really know what that is. Obviously, I understand George's point, where it's just the front is just not getting him into the corner. So he's just having to wait and wait before he can get on the throttle, and it's hurting his exits.
So here's the thing, Jensen, right? George Russell's the first one really of the leading contenders that's gone onto the hard tyres tonight. And we've not seen people running the hard tyres like Vegas last week. This is all very useful data to all the other teams to say, yeah, the hard tyre is not really a very good tyre in this race.
Yeah, he's the guinea pig for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes you jump on that tyre early and you get that advantage, but it doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. Max was saying he wanted 2 turns more front wing. I think that's what everyone's going to be wanting after George's comments on how much understeer he has.
Fernando Alonso is looking for George Russell down the straight. He's not coming at you, Fernando. He's not making any impression on Aston Martin that Alonso was saying was having a lot of problems down the straights earlier in the race. Kevin Magnussen pits. He's had enough of his medium tyres. Comes out behind Liam Lawson, who had who was spun around earlier after contact. Has a time penalty as well when he serves his pit stop in the race. And let's have a look at Lewis Hamilton's struggles.
So we're coming into turn 2 here. A little bit of understeer in the car. Oh, I mean, that was a big snap of oversteer.
Yeah. You're so calm when you describe that.
Until that, yeah. It looked like he was a little bit offline with the understeer, and then it just snapped on him. That's the way that it is around here. It's tough. There's no gradual slide in an F1 car around this track.
That snap cost Lewis about 0.8 of a second to Sergio Perez. The gap between Hamilton and Perez was 2.1 seconds at the end of lap 27. In the lap 28, they've gone to 3.1 seconds. So, out in front, or in fact the top 3, all lapping within a few hundredths of a second of each other at the moment. And they've all got a pretty decent pace, actually. Russell, the only one on the hard tyres, still a second a lap slower. As George Russell tries to make a move on Fernando Alonso, still a second a lap slower than the top 3 in this race. Make that the top 4 with Leclerc as well.
Yeah, it's a massive pace advantage they have still on those medium tyres. Obviously George is stuck behind Fernando, but I don't think he's got that pace. He's not. You see the understeer in the car. He's just not able to carry speed anywhere around the lap. It's just frustrating.
You know, we were saying how tight it was if Ferrari wanted to make a pit stop with Carlos Sainz to get him in and out again ahead of George Russell. It wouldn't be tight now. 7 seconds stationary for Russell. He lost 5 seconds really at the pit stop, but he'd have about 4 seconds advantage. Now, as and when he wants to come in, we've got a yellow flag in sector 1, but not for very long. Maybe Kevin Magnussen had a bit of a moment as we ride on board with his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. And we've got a double yellow flag being waved. I think Kevin Magnussen's going around very slowly, and someone has lost
wing mirror.
A wing mirror, which you drivers keep telling me you can't see out of anyway. But tell you what, Jensen, that's in the middle of the straight. That needs moving, and that might be a virtual safety car to allow the marshals to come on a movement, because it's not on the racing line. But if George Russell wanted an overtake here, he'd run over a wing mirror, and he is going for the overtake because he's past that wing mirror. Yeah, he passed the double yellows. What do you do as the race director at this stage?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me where to go, but if you had any pace to get...
Speak louder, please.
You'll tell me where to go, but if you had any pace to Verstappen, we'd take it, push up to him.
Wow. Yeah. So hopefully he has. He looks like he's been pushing. He's been keeping Max Verstappen very honest. He's 1.8 seconds behind. It's been fluctuating. Now 1.2 seconds behind. He took a big chunk out of him in the first sector.
That's where the wing mirror came from. They found the culprit, and they're standing by at Ferrari, maybe thinking that we're going to have a virtual safety car, but standing by and then going back in, because race control are still happy to cover this with double waved yellows, and we can see just beyond the finish of the pit lane where that wing mirror is stationed. Ted, to you.
Yeah, so some of the marshals actually on the pit wall can see it. They're just waiting for the instruction from race control. If they want them to jump over the wall and go and get it, it's quite dangerous. So there would have to be probably a full safety car rather than a virtual. Anyway, all the teams are on tenterhooks down here, Crofty. Everybody's thinking about a pit stop now. Ferrari had the hard tyres, went back in to the pit box. McLaren thinking about it as well. I love that radio message from Will Joseph to Lando. He didn't tell him where to go, did he? But instead kind of said, speak louder, and then didn't respond. Great stuff.
Max Verstappen has responded.
Check if you lifted for the yellow. There was a yellow in the middle of the straight.
Yeah, there was. We'll have a look. Make sure he lifted. Lando did not lift.
I hope you report that then.
Max has got his wing mirrors, and he's looking at Lando Norris, and he'd seen that Lando Norris had closed the gap between first and second, and now just saying, have a look at that, please, because he should have lifted on the straight, and he should. It's a double waved yellow down there.
Yeah, he lost about 6/10 in that first sector, did Max Verstappen to Lando Norris. So he did the right thing. They got to do something here, because you can't just do the rest of the race with a yellow flag on the straight, because that takes away the only opportunity to overtake. So we're basically going to finish in the positions we're in.
Seems strange to me that they've not moved it. Bernie Collins, I don't know if you were at the Silverstone-based team when a bit fell off Sergio Perez's car in Hungary once. It was the only excitement we had that year, because they had a safety car and it closed everyone up.
I was up there when lots of bits fell off at various points, Crofty, but yeah, it is difficult. I think what they're weighing up here is there a good enough gap between Magnussen and Verstappen currently? There's quite a big gap on track, and I wonder if they think they can clear it in that time, but it's not a lot of time for someone to get out and back in, and they're probably weighing up any unfair advantage they would give by having a very, very short VSC. If it was a VSC or a safety car now, I think everyone who's on the tyres they started on would stop. The team that would struggle the most would be Ferrari, because there's only 4.3 seconds between their cars. The other cars have quite a nice gap to be able to stack in a safety car or VSC situation.
Yes, the double stacking that would be going on there. Ferrari do have new hard tyres for Leclerc and Sainz. Everyone's got new hard tyres in this race, as we saw there Nico Hülkenberg coming in for what was his second stop of this race. It's a 15-second loss, 15-second loss under a safety car or a virtual safety car if you make a pit stop. And it's a 25-second loss if you stop during the course of the race in its entirety. Is this where Lando didn't lift? Got to say, listening to that, Jensen, I didn't hear a lift down the straight.
He didn't lift. I mean, I wonder how many did lift.
That's not the point. We're talking about Lando Norris in this instant, and I don't know what anyone else did down there.
Yeah.
If there's a double yellow, it says slow down and prepare to stop, and at the very least, lift through that double yellow zone.
Was that a double yellow at that moment, or was it a solid yellow?
Well, maybe it wasn't. It was a solid yellow.
Yeah. But still, you're right, 100% we should lift. Hopefully they'll be running through everyone in that scenario. So
I can't see any yellow flags waving down the straight as it is, but we're probably at the wrong camera angle there.
The two cars behind don't have their DRS open.
No. And someone's just gone straight over that wing mirror. Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber has just gone over that wing mirror, which is kind of what we were saying could happen, that if anyone moves over the racing line, they're going to go over it. I don't know why that piece of debris wasn't removed under a safety car or a virtual safety car. It seemed far safer to me to do that. Yeah, there are no yellow flags down the main straight, by the way, at the moment.
But interestingly, the two cars, which is Valtteri and Charles, do not have their DRS open. And I'm wondering it's because they know it's a yellow and you shouldn't have the DRS open.
Yeah.
But that could have destroyed someone's race.
Thing
exactly.
Is, I'm looking at a puncture for Lewis Hamilton. Now, as he picked up debris on that main straight, and that's cost him. He's at turn 5 at the moment. and that would be the most likely outcome. And I think Carlos Sainz is also in trouble with all that debris on the main straight. Very easy for cars to run over it and get a puncture. And Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton both in trouble in this race. And the question has to be asked, why wasn't it dealt with a lot sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I really don't understand. Both front left puncher.
Oh, and Carlos Sainz just needs to slow down before he totally destroys his car. And they'll be telling him that at the moment as Sergio Perez gets past him, moves into 5th place. Oscar Piastri has pitted. And to be honest, not a bad idea to get off the main straight and use the pit lane, even if we do get a safety car currently, because they've obviously got a gap that they can pit him in and still keep ahead of Sergio Perez. But that might not have happened. Perez has gone through now. And there's the debris. You can see it on the track just by the white line and the pit lane exit.
Yeah, there was a little bit coming out the pit lane as well. So on your brand new tyres, that's something you've got to stay away from. So stay as right as you can coming out the pit lane.
Right, so
Ferrari.
Yeah, well, the problem is trying to get the jack underneath the car. They're going to need to have a little look at that, and away he goes. Because it wouldn't surprise me if there was damage to the floor, front wing as well, given what we saw of Carlos Sainz out on track. Hamilton now down in 15th place. Carlos Sainz, if he's lucky, is going to get behind Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, and now we get a safety car. I've got to say, that's about 4 laps too late.
And Verstappen and Norris haven't pitted or Leclerc.
No, Hamilton finally gets into the pits from 15th place. Max Verstappen
just needs to have this luck, man.
It's not going well for Lewis Hamilton, that is for sure. Nico Hülkenberg continues down the main straight. Charles Leclerc comes into the pits. You lose way less time stopping behind a safety car than you do when you're stopping in normal racing conditions. Verstappen's stop was about 8/10 faster than Lando Norris's.
Yeah, massive advantage for the drivers that hadn't pitted yet.
So Sergio Perez, just looking for where he is. He's still out on the track. Top 3, Verstappen, Norris and Leclerc. Piastri had pitted just before the safety car. Perez now pits for Red Bull. Piastri carries on and will move up into 4th place. Hamilton's back into this race. You've got to feel for him. You really do. He's been struggling all this race. Then picks up a load of debris after his former teammate Valtteri Bottas had run over that wing mirror, which really should have been, and we'll say it again, should have been cleared away an awful lot sooner.
Yeah, it could have destroyed, it has destroyed two cars races, and also Bottas hit it. I don't know what damage he had from it as well, so yeah, I don't know what they were hoping for.
Think it's all okay with the front left tire. Doesn't feel okay.
Copy. RB8.
It's a bit of damage.
George Russell pits again. Hard tyres going on. He had a second set of new tyres, I think, George Russell. So they're going to persist with the hard tyre to the end of this race. And now the rest will get to come in as well. Zhou Guanyu, we just saw, making his stop. Fernando Alonso making his stop. What they're going to need to do is just to sweep away that debris before he can get going again. Russell out into this race. He is now ahead of Fernando Alonso, and he's ahead of Carlos Sainz. That puncture has cost Carlos Sainz in his battle with George Russell. Pierre Gasly is in 6th, having pitted behind the safety car. And that's good points for Alpine. If he can hang on to that, that will be 8 points, and taking Alpine as it stands at the moment up into 6th place.
Wow, that's a big haul. That would be a big haul of points. Obviously, he's got George and Carlos behind him, but the pace in the Alpine has been very good, so maybe he can hold on.
Certainly has. Safety car's going to come through the pit lane at the end of this lap to give the marshals a chance to go and sweep away that debris. And while they're doing that, they might want to sweep away some debris on other parts of the track as well. Some of the gravel that's come on the track. Bernie Collins, to you.
Yeah, so it's just going to come in a little bit quickly on Russell. You've seen that second pit stop there for another hard tyre.
2 seconds.
Why have we put hards on? Why have we put the hards back on, mate?
I don't know the answer to that. George Russell wants answers to that, and I am a tad baffled as to why George Russell has a set of hard tyres on his car once again. As I look down, he didn't have a new set of mediums. That might be the answer. Bernie, to you again.
There's the...
Yeah, I was just going to come in on that from Russell, and they have used mediums available, but I think the thing is they are worried about the length, the stint that this hard tyre has to do from here.
Thanks ever so much, Bernie. And that's Lewis Hamilton's moment where his race that had been not exactly sparkling for him, struggling with the balance of his car, got even worse, and Carlos Sainz, I think, instantly felt the effects of that rear puncture as well, the front left puncture.
I mean, it's a safety thing as well. They're doing over 200 miles an hour at that point on the circuit.
Yeah.
And to get a puncture at that speed, yeah, it's dangerous and so disappointing for these guys. Fighting out there for position, giving it their all, and then it's taken away by a puncture from a rogue mirror on the circuit that shouldn't have been there.
Rui Marquez in his second race as race director for Formula One. Has had a busy weekend with F1 Academy. And congratulations to Abby Pulling, by the way, champion for this year. Brilliant for her. But he's been on duty with that, and F2 and F1. And it's a big job. In all honesty, Jensen, you know, I'm not sure I would want to be a race director. I don't know if you fancy the job or not, but it is a big job. But on this occasion, I think questions do need to be asked as to why we waited 4 laps and 2 cars to go over a load of debris before the safety car came out. What's that, 41 points?
Anything on that yellow flag? Or you can just go flat out through a yellow?
Literally just speaking about it now, Max. Stand by.
GP won't be speaking about it. The sporting director, Jonathan Wheatley, is allowed to talk to race control. The race engineers not, but we saw that as well on the replay. Lando Norris not lifting down the straight when the wing mirror was intact. Fernando Alonso pits again to get onto a set of mediums to the end of this race, and he's kind of going wheel to wheel here with Kevin Magnussen down the pit straight.
What up there, man?
I mean, they are level, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, actually, that was the first pit stop for Alonso. Level, and then Alonso gets ahead. Bernie Collins at Sky Race Control, what's the rule on that one? Can you go wheel to wheel down the pit lane?
You can go wheel to wheel down the pit lane. If the pit lane's wide enough, they'll have a look to see if how safe it is. And he's very lucky that none of the other pit crew are out in the pit lane there, and that's what they will look at in race control in that instance. If the pit lane were out, he would be expected to give way because he is not fully in the fast lane.
Was that Lando Norris locking up?
Yeah.
And quite a big lock-up too.
Yeah, obviously coming into the pits, and maybe he didn't realise how much they had to slow down for the pit limiter. When you're following the safety car, it's an unusual situation to find yourself in. But I don't think that would have done too much damage. He's going pretty slow.
Right, let's take a look at this race. And in a minute, because I think the debris has been swept away, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas will be able to unlap themselves. How has this panned out, with some drivers stopping before the safety car, some taking an advantage of stopping during the safety car, as we watch Lando Norris, and this will be that lockup that we were talking about. Hamilton and Bottas have been now told they can overtake.
He has mentioned on the radio that he thinks Lewis...
Hamilton's speeding 100%. He just brake tested me again. I locked both my fronts. Potential double flat spot.
Maybe Lewis didn't have his pit limiter on, and he went to accelerate and was like, oh, I might be going over the speed limit, and he's hit the brakes to make sure he doesn't get done for speeding.
80 kilometres an hour, is that mitigating circumstances if he didn't have his pit limiter on, or will the steward say, no, it doesn't matter, you brake tested someone. Safety car can now use, by the way, the start-finish straight. And Max Verstappen continues to lead from Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc is now up into 3rd place. Oscar Piastri 4th, and Sergio Perez up into 5th. Pierre Gasly has moved into 6th after stopping behind the safety car. George Russell on the hard tyres again, and not very happy about it, is 7th, ahead of Carlos Sainz, who was one of 2 cars to get a puncture. Zhou Guanyu is running 9th for a Sauber team that haven't scored points yet this season. And do you know what? I really hope he stays there, and I really hope Sauber don't have a pointless campaign.
Yeah, I agree. And also, this is the perfect place for them to be in 9th, because they have the pace.
Yeah.
It's not completely by luck. Yeah, a couple of people have had puncture issues, but they've been competitive.
Best finish in Formula One of 8th, Zhou Guanyu in Canada in 2022. Fernando Alonso runs 10th for Aston Martin. And then behind him, Magnussen and Tsunoda, who will be very keen to get back into the points. Albon and Hulkenberg, Lawson, Hamilton and Bottas, who are kind of back into this once again. And that is the current battle in the Constructors' Championship for 6th place. As I mentioned, Alpine moving then into 6th place. Safety cars coming in at the end of this lap. Ted Kravitz down to you.
Yeah, just got my breath back down here. And Fernando Alonso has got a target on Zhou Guanyu's back. He wants that point, those points for P9 in front of him. We'll never know what would happen between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, but everyone has survived that rush through the pit lane after those stops of the safety car.
And Fernando Alonso running the medium tyre, Jensen. I think that's an absolute genius strategy there by Aston Martin. The hard tyres don't seem to be working tonight, so give it a gamble and do 28 laps to the end on the medium tyre if we can.
Well, they did that on the medium tyre at the start of the race when the circuit wasn't as clean.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great shout. I would definitely want to be on mediums, as George Russell wanted to as well.
So for the second time tonight, Max Verstappen will lead them away for a safety car restart. We saw him get it absolutely right, didn't we, on the time before?
Yes, yeah, that was a beautiful start. Oh, so looking at the cars on the medium tyre, Fernando stopped twice to stick the soft back on.
Stick the medium back on. You're absolutely right. You put the hard on.
Medium back on, sorry.
You put the hard on, and then stopped again, got rid of it, because like George Russell, he's not overly fond of those hard tyres tonight. Right, Max Verstappen then going to get racing again, and Oscar Piastri got very keen on the restart before, got an overtake done as well. Is Max going? Is Max going? When's he going to go? He's on the run, and the approach now towards the final corner. He'd actually got going before now. And Lando Norris absolutely chomping at the bits to make sure he doesn't get caught out by Max. He's going to pick up a beautiful slipstream here.
I was going to say he might have to wait until really late, but he hasn't. He's gone. He's going to have a beautiful toe here down to turn 1.
Sergio Perez has stopped at turn 15. Looks like he's out of this race. Max Verstappen under pressure from Lando Norris. Norris is going to have to go round the outside here. He's going to try it into turn 1. Verstappen on the inside. Norris backs off. Verstappen keeps the lead. Going wide, Pierre Gasly, and through goes Carlos Sainz on the Alpine. Verstappen leads Norris, leads Leclerc, leads Piastri, George Russell, and Piastri going wheel to wheel now with Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, Russell's trying to fend off Carlos Sainz. It is all action-packed on this opening stages with a second safety car restart, and Max Verstappen's held on to the lead as down the inside goes Carlos Sainz on Pierre Gasly, and Fernando Alonso joins the back of that pack as well.
Sainz got hit from behind, and he's down in, sorry, Perez got hit. He's down in 17th position.
Yeah, look, we can see what happened here. I said that Perez had stopped at turn 15. This was before he lost drive, is what happened to Sergio Perez, and then got hit. So he lost drive, and then whoever was behind Sergio Perez went into the back of him.
Virtual safety car.
Yes, we want to get Sergio Perez cleared out of the way, and that is the Haas of Nico Hulkenberg out of this race and beached into the gravel. Whoa, they often say one safety car and another safety car follows quite quickly, and that's exactly what has happened here. But it's a full safety car now as well.
Checo is out.
So Sergio Perez losing drive, getting hit from behind, and sadly for him, out of the race in his first DNF since Canada, all those races ago.
Wow, that was a restart, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It was all going on there. We'll get some replays. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen as a few cars diving into the pits under this safety car to get rid of the hard tyre and to put some mediums on. And Fernando Alonso now up into 8th. He got ahead of Zhou Guanyu, showing that the medium tyres are very, very effective. Lando Norris tried around the outside with Max Verstappen. Whatever Max thinks of the safety car restart, he probably won't leave it as late to get going next time around.
He either has to go earlier or later, but I think the reason why he didn't, he's going on softs as well, I think the reason why Max didn't go earlier was because the safety car lights, from what Lando said, didn't go out.
Right.
So that's why he couldn't.
So he couldn't go.
He couldn't prepare.
That's interesting because we knew it was coming in. Let's have a little look here. This is Sergio Perez.
So he still has drive. Everything's normal. Oh, did he actually get hit, or did he? Very strange.
That looks like a hydraulics issue, doesn't it? Right, here we go. Lando Norris down the main straight. Max forces him wide. There's still plenty of space there, and he's ahead by half a car length. And then Max moves over to the left to defend his position. It was hard and it was tough, but
they both stayed on the track.
They both stayed on the track. They looked pretty fair to me. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc really going for it as Ferrari stay ahead of McLaren on track. Carlos Sainz has to back out of it as George Russell gets past, and Russell had already passed Pierre Gasly down the main straight, I think. Yeah, as Gasly outbrakes himself and goes straight on.
So Gasly was in 5th.
Yeah,
position.
Yes, Gasly had got 5th and was almost up in a second. His braking was that late.
Yeah. But I mean, you can see the toe difference that you get down the straight there. We had three pairs of cars fighting for position down into turn 1. And I think with these hard tyres, they're just struggling to get them working.
Oh, Oscar Piastri at the last moment getting past the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, or getting out from behind the rear wing, I should say, of Charles Leclerc. And Lando Norris is under investigation by the stewards for failing to slow under yellow flags, and we've seen the replay of that, and it does rather look and sound that he didn't lift at all, and that could be a penalty coming Lando Norris's way as Carlos Sainz runs wide and Pierre Gasly makes up a place on him, so he stays 6th after an action-packed first lap.
Yeah, that was a big snap there on the hard tyres.
Oh. So that is how the Haas of Nico Hülkenberg ended up in the gravel. That just looked like the tyres weren't giving him the grip that he wanted. He wasn't caught by anyone, I don't think.
Oh yeah, it's just the tyres not working and they're working range. That's normally such an easy corner for them, turn 9, but you can hear he's lifted, it's unsettled the rear, and he's gone back on throttle, and game over.
So, Lando Norris under investigation. Safety cars coming in at the end of this lap. We have 2 RBs and a Williams of Alex Albon on the soft compound tyre. Fernando Alonso still on the medium.
What position I'm in?
Currently P12.
Car's messed up, mate.
And I wonder, could they have pitted Lewis Hamilton and put him on the medium tyres as well at Mercedes to give him a little bit of extra grip to try and get him back into this race? And 49 points, the difference, 39 points, the difference. I've got to try and work this out. 39 points, the difference between McLaren and Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, which is not enough for McLaren to win the championship tonight. Right, here we go again then, Jenson Button. Is he going to go now?
What? They're all going to have very cold tyres. I can tell that he's gone. And he's got a good advantage there. But we saw before he really struggled to put the power down on the exit of the last corner.
Safety car lights were still on when they got going, and both Max Verstappen and Lando Norris were complaining about that. But Bernd Maylander was in the pit lane, and Max has got going. And this time, Lando Norris, rather than attacking, is the car under pressure, goes to the inside. Charles Leclerc is going to have to go around the outside. Norris stays a couple of car lengths ahead. Ferrari behind McLaren, and behind Ferrari is Oscar Piastri in the distance there, trying to get close as Lewis Hamilton, struggling to warm up his tyres, drops down into 13th. George Russell, his teammate, runs 5th. Pierre Gasly is 6th. They're weaving to try and get temperature into these tyres. Not Fernando Alonso on the mediums. Seems like that is the best way to go here. But out in front, Max Verstappen has the lead over Lando Norris.
Yeah, that was a much more relaxed restart than you exactly what to expect from the tyres and how the car would feel into turn 1. But yeah, look at Fernando Alonso. He's not weaving around to get temperature in the tyres. His tyres are working immediately, and I think that is the tyre to be on. It's just whether that car has the pace in it. But if it does, Fernando will extract it.
Yeah, he might be putting a bit of pressure on Carlos Sainz when they come down the straight next time around.
Check the front left. can see sparks coming from it and I have a vibration.
And Oscar Piastri has dropped a 10th to Charles Leclerc on this lap. Can't see sparks from riding on board with him, but he can certainly feel those vibrations as George Russell, I think, goes a little bit wide ahead of Pierre Gasly as they make their way towards the end of this latest lap of racing. 7/10 the difference between Verstappen and Norris. Gap then back to Charles Leclerc, gap to Oscar Piastri, gap to George Russell, gap to Gasly. Sainz, not much of a gap ahead of Fernando Alonso, but he stays ahead. Zhou Guanyu's in 9th and Alex Albon up into 10th. Ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Hulkenberg, Perez, Stroll, Ocon and Colapinto are all out. Piastri is told everything looks good with his tyre. And we're on lap 44 of 57. Bernie Collins. Hello, Bernie, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sorry. There was a bit going on there, Crofty, but I was just trying to listen into Piastri, that complaints of the front left. And one of the things that we have to be aware of at the minute is that all of the punctures have been front left. All of the issues have been front left. And this track we have in the past 2 seasons have had issues with tyre durability here. So let's see how this progresses.
Right, Alex Albon, that was his battle with Kevin Magnussen to get into 10th. Crucially, at the front end of this race, a 10-second stop-go penalty for Lando Norris for failing to slow under yellow flags. We saw it and we heard it down the straight. He did not lift when he was behind Max Verstappen. There was a wing mirror on the track. That's why the yellow flags were there. That is a severe penalty for Lando Norris. That is taking him way out of contention in this race.
It is, because obviously there's only 12 laps to go and they're all bunched up because of the safety car, so that hurts them a lot. I mean, the only thing you can do now is to be aggressive as you possibly can, get past Max and pull as much time as you possibly can.
But he's got 3 laps to serve that in. He's got 3 laps to serve that penalty within. Even if he got past Max now, he's not going to make up enough of a gap, is he?
No, I mean, why? He's got 12 laps to make, 10 seconds on Max Verstappen, which isn't likely.
Yeah, but he has 3 laps to serve the penalty, that's the thing. So when you get a stop-go penalty...
Oh, sorry, it's just a stop-go 10 seconds.
Yeah,
sorry, I thought it was just 10-second penalty.
Oh,
wow, that's massive.
Yes. Lando has been given a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which he needs to serve within 2 laps.
That seems unbelievably extreme.
But I assume they'll say it's a safety thing.
Yeah.
You've got to lift. When yellow flags are there, you know, as a driver, Jensen, the reason why drivers are told to lift. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton's been noted for speeding in the pit lane. He's already had a 5-second penalty.
We have been given a 10-second stop-go penalty, which we will take this lap.
No response from Lando Norris and Ted Kravitz. He's coming into the pit lane now.
I think he probably can't believe it, like the rest of us can't believe it. I mean, I know it's a new race director, but let's just stress, it's not the race director who gives the penalties, it's the stewards. But this seems incredibly harsh and something we haven't seen for this kind of thing recently. So Lando is right in front of me, sitting there, and this is going to put him out of the points completely and last, Crofty, because it's a 36 seconds penalty, while everything included in the time it takes to come in, doesn't it? So it's going to amount to a race lost time of about 35 seconds.
Basically, Lando Norris is now running last. As he comes out onto the track, no one behind him, and he can't see the cars in front of him.
For what?
Failing to slow under the yellow flag.
I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this, but the immediate outcome is Norris is last. McLaren, who could win the Constructors' Championship tonight, are not going to do that unless the 2 Ferraris retire from this race, I would imagine.
Yeah, obviously they're going to have an advantage, the Ferraris here, of, what is it, 8?
Well, it's 30
11
points. Yeah, it was 30 points coming into the race, wasn't it? And that is how things have changed dramatically, with McLaren scoring 15 points, Ferrari scoring 26. It is going to go down to the wire in Abu Dhabi.
19 points.
Yeah, only 19 points. And by the way, Lewis Hamilton now has a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Not the day.
And also 25.5.
Leave me alone, mate. I'm pushing.
Zhou Guanyu moves up into 8th. Zhou Guanyu on the verge of equaling his best finish in Formula One. And Max Verstappen now with a comfortable gap out in front of about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, he's. I mean, that's a nice, healthy gap, isn't it? He can just cruise it from there, I feel. Yeah, Leclerc up into 2nd. Obviously, Sainz down in P6. This is a big moment for Gasly as well in P5. That's a lot of points. 10 points for Alpine. That's a good chunk with only 1 race to go.
It certainly is. Pierre Gasly at a track that he does rather love. This is Kevin Magnussen getting back on terms and back ahead of Alex Albon, and then losing the place as he goes wide.
Yeah, he was going for the outside move there, and being forced off the track, just like he was a couple of laps ago as well. They made contact, and luckily no damage to either car.
10 laps to go. A lot to talk about from this race tonight. 3 safety car periods. Lando Norris with a 10-second
Okay, so we've got to drive through penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so it looks like he forgot to press the button on that first time behind the safety car.
Retire the car, park the car, mate.
Negative.
He's asking to actually stop.
Yes, he is.
Tyre.
Well, he wants to come in. He's had enough of this tonight. His penultimate race for Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton saying, park the car, I want to retire, and being told, no, you carry on.
I mean, the frustrating thing is it's been a pretty bad race for him with the puncher, and obviously not a great start, but he was in P11. He still had the opportunities to still fight for points after all that of being a lap down, and that little mistake has put him last. Yeah, it's like I say, whatever could go wrong has gone wrong, really, for Lewis Hamilton in this race.
What do you look? You were Lewis's teammate for many years. This weekend's it's been good. A positive, negative, positive, negative. It'll be a negative after this race as well. What do you make of Lewis's state of mind? He just wants to get this season out of the way, or what?
It's been mostly negative, and we saw the same thing in Brazil, and it's a real surprise for me. You know, conditions that Lewis normally thrives in, and the problem is once you have a couple of bad moments, especially when your teammate is just getting the best out of the car every single session, it starts hurting, and it spirals out of control. And even though you're a 7-time world champion, you forget that. You just think about that last moment that was negative.
And now Lewis is told to pit to retire the car. More on that in a moment, as Kevin Magnussen does swoop round the outside of the soft tyre running Williams of Alex Albon and up into 9th place. And Ted, Lewis Hamilton will be coming in into the pit lane. I'm assuming they want. Well, he's actually carried on.
He has carried on. I think they were discussing it. Lewis was very much of the opinion that he was just going to come into the pit lane and turn the car off himself. Just end the discussion by just coming in and turning the car off. Of course, he has the power to do that, but the team have convinced him, it seems, on this lap at least, to keep going.
I think they wanted him to serve the penalty as well, like with Lance Stroll earlier in the race, so it wasn't a penalty carried over to the next race, his last race for Mercedes.
And I hope that is his last race for Mercedes. I really do. I hope we see Lewis back in Abu Dhabi, because this is mentally such a tough place for him to be in. One of the greatest, if not the greatest ever in this sport, to be in this position mentally, it's soul destroying, and you know, I really feel for him.
You think there's a chance he won't go and race for Mercedes next week?
Well, a couple of races ago, that was his mindset, wasn't it, after Brazil? But I hope he has his last race in Abu Dhabi, because we know how great he is, and we know how great he is around that track, and I want to see that.
Before he heads off to Ferrari, of course, and for the first time in what will be 19th season in Formula One, he races without Mercedes power as well. So Alpine then ahead of Haas now by 5 points in the championship. Haas scoring 2 in this race. Alpine scoring 10 with Pierre Gasly in 5th and holding off Carlos Sainz. Fernando Alonso sticking to that 7th place and lapping quite well. Zhou Guanyu has a very nice cushion between himself and Kevin Magnussen of 4 seconds. We're on lap 50 here. Zhou Guanyu currently running 8th for a Sauber team, who are the only team who haven't scored a point this season. And you go back, don't you, to this place last year where Sauber scored their most recent points in Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want...
Nice one, Kev.
I'm off, says Kevin Magnussen.
Go for it, Kev.
Another one of your former teammates.
Exactly. We don't want them to have a dry season. We want them to get some points. And Valtteri in 11th place. He's only just behind the Williams of Albon on the soft tyre.
This could be a double points finish for Sauber because Valtteri is really catching Alex Albon. Those soft tyres have gone off. What a night that's going to be down at Sauber. What a night for Max Verstappen, who clinched the title last week in Las Vegas and is very much in the drive back to winning ways here tonight. Brilliant drive in the wet, of course, in Sao Paulo for victory. But this is going to be his first victory in the dry since Spain, as Lando Norris makes an overtake past Liam Lawson and into 13th place. He might yet still score a point in this race as he fights his way through the field. In all honesty, he's got the pace to do it.
He's 3 seconds quicker than the cars in front. 2.5 seconds. That is massive, and there's still 6 laps to go. Yeah, there's every chance he'll get a point or two.
And McLaren would like him to get at least a point here and pick up another point for that fastest lap that he's got too. It's all adding up in the Constructors' Championship battle. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri running in 3rd place behind Charles Leclerc. And you don't want to go much wider than that. Little bit of a dip into the gravel.
It's what it does to the floor, though, running over the edge of their curb. And Zach's feeling the pressure a little bit.
Well, he certainly is. And I think he's going to be feeling the pressure all the way through to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi, where there might be a lift of that pressure, or it might be back to the drawing board once again. Valtteri Bottas, as I said, catching Alex Albon. Lando Norris very much catching Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, I mean, this is a done deal, isn't it? Down the main straight, you would say. Look at the exit he's able to get. Yuki's soft tyres are, yeah, they're not what they were, let's just say.
Here comes Lando Norris then, getting a slipstream, getting DRS and getting 12th place. And as he does that, Valtteri Bottas goes wide in his bid to try and get past Alex Albon, which is going to frustrate him for a little bit longer, and he's going to have to try again against the Williams. And let's face it, Williams would quite like the point as well, although they're pretty much nailed on, aren't they, for 9th in the Constructors' Championship this year.
Yeah, I think it's for Bottas to get into the points, it's a much bigger deal. But it's not going to be easy. You know, Norris is only 2.8 seconds behind him with 5 laps to go. Oh.
And I tell you what, there's another battle that's getting a bit closer here as well. Carlos Sainz tucked up behind Pierre Gasly. Fernando Alonso is catching this battle too. And you might just see Alonso and Sainz getting pretty close. 5 laps to go here. And whilst out in front, Max Verstappen has a very comfortable lead. Behind him, there are all sorts of battles that might flip around the places, including this one. Valtteri Bottas, who scored Sauber's last points here in Qatar, it was in October last year, is on the verge of a points finish. His teammate is in the points, and that is Carlos Sainz. And that is one of the reasons why Fernando Alonso is catching him so rapidly. Back on board with Valtteri Bottas. This was down into turn 1. Thought that the opportunity was there against Alex Albon, and it was for one brief moment.
It was. He had to go for it there.
And he's ahead of him now, though, and Lando Norris is right behind him. Bottas is into the points. Alex Albon down into 11th. Lando Norris could yet spoil the Sauber driver's day because he is absolutely racing towards the end here and trying to get back into the points after his stop-go penalty. A 10-second stop-go penalty. Alex Albon is past. Bottas to go, and he's back into the points again.
Yeah, luckily for Sauber, Bottas is 13 seconds back from Joe. So still looking good for points, but maybe not the double points finish they were hoping for.
Lap 53 of 57, the championship, the Constructors' Championship, will go to Abu Dhabi as it stands currently. As Valtteri Bottas harvesting energy, getting more power into his batteries, the blinking red lights that you could see, is trying to fend off Lando Norris. This might be a bit of a tough order for him. We're on board now with Carlos Sainz down the main straight, behind Pierre Gasly. And into turn 1 we go. Zhou Guanyu currently leading driver of the day. Yes. Yes.
I bet he didn't expect that coming into this weekend.
No, he didn't. Alex Albon has got a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. more penalties than they had in the World Cup final stadium when Argentina beat France a few years ago. Lando Norris is into the points. Valtteri Bottas is out of it. 10th now for Norris, who's back up into the points after running second in this race for so long.
His pace has been outstanding, the quickest car on track when he gets a clear lap. But now into the points, or point scoring position, but he has his fastest lap, so that's 2 points.
And Kevin Magnussen, I think, has got a penalty to come as well. He's got a time penalty in this race, so that's the case. It might be another position, but he's got a 10-second gap to try and close down. This was Bottas down the main straight against Alex Albon.
That's got to hurt, hasn't it? Taking that 10th place, 1 point for 1 lap before you get overtaken by Lando Norris.
And then Lando Norris says, thank you very much indeed.
I mean, he's absolutely flying. He's properly pushing, isn't it? It's lovely to watch.
And we can see Carlos Sainz down the main straight here. He's got some pace on Pierre Gasly. He's got some pace on Pierre Gasly. Sainz wants to go down the inside. Gasly says, no, thank you. But how much longer can Gasly fight this one?
That was beautifully lined up for Pierre, though. He knew that he had to give him space at the apex and just carried that speed through the middle of the corner.
He's had 3 strikes for track limits, Pierre Gasly, as well, so he's got to be very careful in this defence that he doesn't run wide, get a black and white flag, and then maybe a 5-second penalty as Lewis Hamilton's now on the tail of Liam Lawson down the main straight and trying not to finish last in this race, which is not going to happen as he does get past Lawson and up into 14th. Gap out in front, 6 seconds. Max Verstappen, who won from pole last year, is going to complete back-to-back victories here in Qatar and help Red Bull in their fight in the Constructors' Championship. His teammate Sergio Perez out of the equation after losing drive just before the final safety car restart. Was that the moment that Lando Norris didn't lift? No, it was the moment Lando Norris went wide.
He is pushing hard. 22.4 his last lap, which is half a second quicker than anyone, including obviously Max Verstappen in first.
Meanwhile, George Russell, who's running in 4th, has been noted by race control for a safety car infringement. Whether that's he got past someone before the safety car had gone away or he went too quick. With the light still on, I don't know, but it's just a safety car infringement. Hasn't been passed to the stewards at the moment. There's a lot to be decided, isn't there? And a few explanations coming our way, I'm sure. Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, gaining on Charles Leclerc. Maybe going for one last hurrah before the checkered flag. Albon pits for Williams.
Sainz is 0.8 of a second behind Gasly, as we can see on screen. He's going to be hoping to stay as close as he can to get that DRS and have another opportunity into turn 1. I've noticed that Gasly has been recharging a lot more in the first sector than the Ferrari is.
Because he's going to need that in defence when they go down the straight the next time around. Final lap, Max Verstappen, currently 37 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, who lost 36 seconds with that stop-go penalty. Oh, that could have been quite the duel if Lando had lifted off and not got that penalty. In second, Leclerc. Third, Piastri. Fourth, Russell. Fifth, Gasly. Sixth, Sainz down the main straight. The electrical energy, the ERS system doing its job for Pierre Gasly, stays ahead of Carlos Sainz, who had the slipstream and the DRS, and Gasly had the extra boost for that. Out in front, Verstappen is making his way through turn 6. He has coped brilliantly and did a superb job to dispatch George Russell right at the start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, an exceptional performance. He's reading the race really well as well. You know, the mention of obviously the penalty for Lando. Did he lift? He gained on me in that sector. So he's read the race perfectly.
The awareness of Max Verstappen very much coming to the fore. And as we arrived at the racetrack today, we were discussing this, weren't we? That penalty, that one-place grid penalty that took pole away from him, what would that do for Max Verstappen? We all thought it would serve to inspire and to energize, and that is exactly what it has done. He had the motivation, he had the determination, he had the acceleration, Max Verstappen from second on the grid, denied pole, but not denied victory. Verstappen wins the Qatar Grand Prix. What a performance from the four-time world champion. Charles Leclerc comes home to take second place for Ferrari. Such an important second place as Piastri comes third. In the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari needed to outscore McLaren tonight. They have done that. They take the fight to Abu Dhabi in a week's time. Pierre Gasly, what a performance from him. Fifth place, and Alpine back into sixth in the $30 million battle for sixth in the Constructors. Carlos Sainz finishes sixth on the track. Fernando Alonso, inspired tyre choice to be on the mediums at the end, ahead of Zhou Guanyu. Brilliant performance for him and for Sauber. Their first points of the season. Well done. And I hope he hung on to driver of the day as well. Kevin Magnussen takes ninth. Lando Norris comes home for 10th. What a Qatar Grand Prix.
Yeah, what we thought was going to be difficult because of the DRS train turned into a fantastic race. It's amazing what a safety car and a few virtual safety cars can do, isn't it?
What? Oh, he did!
Yes! Driver of the day.
Whoever voted for Zhou Guanyu, well done. Yeah, we'll applaud that from the commentary box. Excellent efforts. We say goodbye to him for the time being at the end of the next race. He is a very, very warm, very likeable human being, Zhou Guanyu, and actually a much better driver than it has shown with his results.
Karma is a wonderful thing. Definitely did not drive necessarily slowly today.
Simply lovely, guys. Yes, 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 yes. What an unbelievable race again. That was really fun.
Max, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You nailed it from the start, and on either the left or the right side, you'd have done it today. So absolutely outstanding. Your 9th victory of the year. That is quite an achievement. Well done, mate.
Simply a lovely evening again.
Is all Max wants to say for the moment. I did have a chat with GP, Gianpiero Lambiase, Max's race engineer, and I know he wasn't happy with the penalty and was a bit infuriated. I think this result will take away some of that fury tonight. George Russell, though, is under investigation. No, he's not. He's got a 5-second time penalty for a safety car infringement, but I think he's going to be okay. He'll hang on to 4th place. He finished 7.6 seconds ahead of Pierre Gasly, so he gets 5 seconds, but it means nought in terms of his race result.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. So that is your result, but wow, I mean, that had a bit of everything, didn't it, that?
Yeah. Like I say, more penalties, and they had 6 kilometres away at the Lusail Stadium when Argentina won the World Cup. There were quite a few penalties that night as well, to be fair. There's your car number 1 finishing as your race winner for tonight, the 63rd win for Max Verstappen in the Formula 1 World Championship. The Constructors' Championship, well, it's between Ferrari and McLaren. McLaren and Ferrari's night was Ferrari's night. And I don't know what McLaren will say about that penalty for Lando Norris. It took him out of the top 9. As Verstappen gets out of his car, but Ferrari hung on and
they did, and this isn't a track that suits their car. You know, when we go to Abu Dhabi, I think it's a track a bit more like Vegas that we're very strong at. So, you know, they did all they could. They didn't put wrong, really, and amazingly, Sainz came home with 6th after a puncture.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse for Carlos Sainz. He and Lewis Hamilton picking up that puncture. Valtteri Bottas ran over the wing mirror. And Charles Leclerc, by the way, his 2nd place tonight, I think that takes him to within 7 points of Lando Norris in that battle for the number 2 spot. Now, I know you used to hate finishing 2nd, but, you know, is it something for the drivers to be runner-up?
Definitely. I mean, they're not just fighting for the constructors in the last race now. They're going to be fighting for 2nd in the World Championship. So, yeah, it definitely means something. And you've beaten the other 18 drivers. You've done okay.
And he did all that without taking a drink tonight as well, Charles Leclerc. His drink system was broken, and they didn't have time to fix it on the grid.
He'll be happy with the safety cars and the virtual safety cars then, so we can have a little breather, because that's not easy with the amount of G-force they're pulling around here. This is a physical one.
It certainly is. Imagine last year in October if he hadn't been able to have a drink. He'd have been doing what the marathon runners do, and you triathletes. He'd have been asking for someone to hand him a water bottle from the side as he went past. That was a hot night last year. The fireworks look very, very pretty this evening.
We have a wonderful view, don't we?
Yeah, we do actually from our commentary box. I'm just turn to the left-hand side. They look superb.
Driver of the day for you?
Oh, Joe Grandier, without a doubt. Look, Max did brilliantly. We're kind of used to Max winning, and he's made a bit of a habit of it. And I think Charles Leclerc drove a super race, and Pierre Gasly drove a super race as well. But I'm just giving it to Joe Grandier because I hate to see anyone be pointless at the end of the season. So come on, Valtteri for Abu Dhabi.
And chunky points, 4 points. So very well done to him.
Yeah. I think Valtteri Bottas will still stay last. No, he actually might move up from last in the championship, and does. He goes ahead of Logan Sargent in the championship because that 11th is his highest finish of the season.
Yeah, they look a little bit sweaty there, don't they?
They certainly do. Right, here's the points as they stand. Constructors' points. McLaren 640, Ferrari 690, 31 difference to take to Abu Dhabi, which sounds like it should be comfortable for McLaren, but as we saw with Lando Norris, anything can happen.
It can. Obviously, Red Bull are out of the title fight now. They have dropped out.
They have dropped out of the title fight. Former Red Bull driver David Coulthard is hosting the post-race interviews.
Race finisher in what was a very eventful race. Safety cars galore, penalties, and you had quite a few moments as you were in your own battle. We saw you working the wheel hard to keep the car on track.
Yeah, it was a tricky race. I think you know, the cars at the front seemed to have very similar pace to each other, and it was really, really tough to make the inroads to get into DRS, and then far enough into DRS to overtake. So a couple of good moments with Charles out there, and nice to end up on the podium, but not quite the result we looked for.
Yeah, this does mean that this championship battle well and truly goes down to the final Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Lando's penalty was for, but yeah, obviously quite a big one. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting end to the year. I think you know, hopefully we can be strong, but it's going to take everything we've got to seal it in.
A year ago, we saw you all exhausted at the end of this race. The safety cars have broken this one up, so physically a lot more controlled this year.
Definitely. I think just the temperature as well. You know, the track's a lot faster this year, so it should be tougher, but I think the fact that it's not a sauna in the car this year is making life a bit easier. So fun race, mega track. You know, it's probably the most fun of the whole year around here. So yeah, enjoyed the race, just not quite the result.
Great to hear you love the track. We'll leave you to go and enjoy the podium. So Charles Leclerc, second place in the end. So given the events of that Grand Prix, I guess you'll not be too disappointed with that result.
I'm really happy. I mean, honestly, I will have signed straight away if I had a paper that told me that we will finish second after a weekend like this, especially on a track like this, because our car characteristics is not fitting very well with this track, and we knew it was going to be a very difficult weekend compared to the McLaren, but at the end we managed to take some points away from them. So yeah, the fight will be all the way to the last race in Abu Dhabi next week.
We had that controversial moment with a couple of punctures. Your teammate picked up that puncture. Were you well aware of the debris on track? Were you in contact with your engineer?
Honestly, I don't know whether it was the debris or the way the curbs are and the way we need to ride the curbs. On the curbs, I just ignored it because I knew that there was too much performance in it, and I was just hoping to not have a puncture myself as well. For the debris, I was staying on the left in the straights, hoping that it wouldn't bite me, and it didn't. Hopefully, it's a shame for Carlos because obviously as a team it would have been great to be further up with Carlos. But yeah, it's the way it goes, and it's still a positive weekend overall for the team.
So given that you weren't expecting this circuit to be strong for you, as we go down to the wire for the constructors a week's time in Abu Dhabi, where do you see yourself in performance terms there?
It's difficult to know. I think we are all very close, so I think it's going to be very tight, but it's exciting. Yeah, 21 points is still a lot, but everything is possible and we'll give it all.
Okay, well, congratulations. Enjoy the podium. And our race winner, Max Verstappen. It's been a while in completely dry conditions, but what a difference a day makes on the ropes and the sprint to leading this from the start. And what was not a dominant victory in terms of your battle with Lando, in the end, it was comfortable.
Yeah, it was a very good race. Of course, already yesterday in qualifying, the car was a lot better. And yeah, today, that first stint was very, very fast. Lando and I were just within 1.8 seconds of each other the whole time, pushing each other. And honestly, it was a lot of fun out there. This track has a lot of grip, and this year the tires are really holding on. So that was honestly a lot of fun to be, you know, really pushing the tire. And yeah, we went really long in that first stint. After that, of course, there were a few safety car moments that you had to take care. But very happy, you know, it's been a while in the dry to be this competitive, and very proud of everyone within the team, you know, to turn it around within a day. So they definitely also deserve this victory.
You mentioned the safety cars. It looked the first one you absolutely aced the restart. The second one, you put yourself under a lot of pressure, and it was some brilliant wheel-to-wheel action into turn one, and then you got the final one spot on. So was it like it looked? You just didn't quite get the traction in the second?
On the hard tires, there's very little grip. You know, you just come out of the box, so they're already cold, and then immediately, of course, we had the safety car, and behind the safety car, you can't warm them up. And then I tried something different out of the last corner, where I had no rear grip, basically. So I just struggled for traction out of the corner, and then it got a bit spicy into turn one, but I think that's great to see. And then, yeah, after that, we drove it to the end with good pace. So, yeah, very happy to win here.
We've got these three amazing races. You had your World Championship in Vegas. Here we are a week later, you're winning. And in 1 week's time, we're going to be in Abu Dhabi. Have you any idea where your performance will be? Because it seems so close between all of the main teams.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. Of course, the last few years we've always been quite competitive there, so I hope we can be competitive again, but we'll pay attention to detail, you know, to try and optimize the car, and hopefully, yeah, we can fight for a win there again.
Well, look, you go and enjoy the podium. Congratulations on this fantastic victory. And ladies and gentlemen, in 1 week's time, we'll have the showdown for the Constructors' Championship in Abu Dhabi.
Max Verstappen on top and in control. And whilst he didn't technically lead from start to finish, he kind of did after the first corner.
Yes, he did. And when we talk about the Constructors' Championship, we didn't have one of the cars from those teams fighting for Constructors' Championship starting on pole position or second, and they didn't win it either. So it just shows how fantastic this sport is at the moment and how competitive.
And that is Grand Prix diving, not stage diving, it's Grand Prix diving. And he's rather getting used to diving into the arms of his waiting mechanics. Here's Max Verstappen, who rather loves it under the lights.
Well, the last three races have been pretty impressive for him, haven't they? Brazil, win, Vegas winning the World Championship, and winning here as well.
Yeah, 2 wins in 3 and a title to go with it as well. To the post-race podcast.
I had no grip.
A few technical problems from the cool-down room. Sadly, we don't get a chance to hear Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc talking about grip.
You get to listen to us instead.
Ah, aren't you lucky?
Yes.
Your overriding memory of that race, Jensen. I personally, it's a shame Lando got the penalty. We'd love to have seen him battle Max Verstappen. Not complaining about the penalty. Here we go.
But also the lights in the safety car weren't going off. So the second one where we all like went at the last corner, I think the second one.
I couldn't understand.
I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah. Same. You were saying what's going on with the safety car lights?
Yeah, they were broken.
Yeah.
That's why I got a bit confused, you know, because I was like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Because of course I knew that they would go out. Oops. I knew they were kind of out, but they were still on in a way, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh. Bit of off-roading.
Were you flat in 14?
Yes.
Yeah.
You?
But that's I was seeing on my dash. I was like a tenth and a half faster, and every time it was 0.9, 1.0.
Oh my god.
What happened?
You drove straight over the mirror.
Yeah. Who? Carlos or?
No, Sauber.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
Yes, funny.
Well, what's slowest drag race? Did you guys touch it?
No, it was very close, maybe. Oh, people in the back there.
Yeah.
I was all over the place.
Instant debrief from the cool-down room. Yeah, we didn't get to see that battle again between Verstappen and Norris. The yellow lights were on the side, the yellow flags were waving, the penalty, you know, seemed a slam dunk. You thought it might have been a bit severe?
It seems severe because it feels like the yellow flag shouldn't have still been there. It should have felt that we should have had a virtual safety car or a safety car to remove the mirror. So it is what it is. I mean, if there's a yellow flag, you have to lift. So you get a penalty. But a shame. One thing that we did get to enjoy was to watch Lando Norris at the end of the race. The pace he had and the fight that he had on the way up to that P10 and actually scoring 2 championship points.
Yes, because he had the fastest lap of the race as well. It's his teammate Oscar Piastri, though, who emerges onto the podium for his 8th podium finish of the season. Alongside him, Charles Leclerc, who's never finished higher than 5th in either a sprint race or a Grand Prix here at the Lusail Stadium. Or Lusail track, I should say. Max Verstappen, a 9th victory in 2024 in his 2nd.
To say Max Verstappen, he has a feel with a racing car that most of us could only dream of. Where he can put the car, his understanding of a race car. That was an exceptional win, and I think that's Max Verstappen through and through that victory.
Remember the sprint yesterday when he couldn't get past Nico Hülkenberg, couldn't make an impression on the Haas? Well, it all changed around, didn't it, in qualifying in the race here. Red Bull and Max Verstappen found answers.
They did, and he didn't think he'd get another win after his win sort of 12 races ago, but he's won 2. And, you know, we look forward to the 2025 season, and he is a real challenger, even though we thought he'd dropped off his pace and the team's pace. But he will be taking it to McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes.
Three different constructors on the podium tonight. Red Bull on top, Ferrari closing the gap to McLaren, now 31 points in that Constructors' Championship. The fight will go down to Abu Dhabi. Second place for Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri takes third, and that is a 20th podium of the season for McLaren, which equals the amount of podiums they'd won before this year in the years between 2012, Lewis Hamilton leaving, and 2023. So that shows the performance of McLaren this season, shows how Ferrari have come back into it, shows how Red Bull have raised their game to stay on top, and we have one more race to go in 2024, round 24 in Abu Dhabi next season. Will Max take the honours again? Will Ferrari and McLaren finish in that order, or will it be McLaren and Ferrari in that order in the Constructors' Championship? It's all to be decided in 7 days' time. Tonight, though, Max sealed the win.
Yes, good morning, everyone.